Welcome to a galaxy far, far away. Here at the Cantina podcast, we provide top shelf service, including rumors, leaks, news, and reviews. Come in, order a Loman Ale, and remember, no droids allowed. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Cantina here on the Genreverse podcast network, part of the LRM Online family. Make sure you're heading over to LRMonline.com every day for all of your entertainment news, needs, and opinions. We are on every podcast app you can imagine, website. Go ahead and follow us there, or if you're watching on YouTube, the Genreverse YouTube channel, hit the red subscribe button. And of course, we are sponsored by the good folks over at Grow Generation. A little bit more from them later on in the episode. I am Kyle Malone at that Kyle Malone on Twitter, joined as usual by Cam Clark at LRM_Cam. And today we have a full cast, a full crew, however you want to word it, because Shockey is here as well at LRM_Shockey. Gentlemen, how's it going?
Good.
Going good.
We missed last week. That's all right. Nothing really big happened last week.
Nothing much.
Couple little things to discuss over the last week since then, and yeah, man, all eyes are kind of like on San Diego this weekend because of Comic-Con, and Marvel's got a big day ahead of them. They've got what's the word I'm looking for? Marvel animation announcements on Friday, and then the big Hall H presentation on Saturday. And I mean, look, what is it? Next month is September is D23 and Disney Plus Day, and we're expecting a lot more Star Wars stuff from those two, because, well, let's face it, the world of Star Wars for right now and the foreseeable future is Disney Plus, not movies. So it kind of makes sense to expect a lot more on Disney's personal conventions and PR stuff, if you will. But we do have some things to talk about for some of those streaming service. The first one being some footage that leaked from Andor. Cam, you wrote this piece up. You want to kind of chit chat about what we see?
It's a strange one, because this was released officially by an Andor Twitter account, but then it disappeared from the Andor Twitter account, and then other people online obviously picked it up from there, and then just
the internet
retweeted that out, and it's out there. I actually thought there was quite a lot of new footage in it, that we hadn't seen from the initial kind of teaser that we had for kind of Andor. I think the overwhelming thing that I certainly looked at is I just thought it looked absolutely fantastic compared to maybe some of the other Star Wars shows that we've seen recently, in terms of just the cinematic feel of it, the wide shots. It just felt more like a Star Wars project to me, almost even more than Obi-Wan Kenobi, despite that having such a big impact on the Star Wars universe. I mean, one thing we've always said is that Rogue One is a pretty film. It's a very pretty film. It was, in my opinion, the best looking Star Wars film until The Last Jedi came out, which did kind of trump it in terms of looks.
Yeah.
Other issues with the film, but it looked fantastic. And I think since then, this Andor now looks like the next kind of contender for that, if you like, for me.
Well, I mean, that we've seen from footage back on, I think one of the first or the second Disney Plus Day, the B-roll footage, how many live sets there's going to be, and we've heard things about different shooting locations and whatnot, sets.
I mean,
sets
yeah, they were all over
and
the UK
tangibles.
shooting.
Yeah, man, tangible stuff is what. I mean, look. To all those that love the prequels, get your brains checked. But you gotta admit that the all digital backgrounds definitely hurt it, especially when you consider that forever and ever and ever, the prequel trilogy is locked into very, very poor resolution, having been completely filmed digitally. Like, sure, you could re-render some of the models and stick them in there, but the film quality is not going to get any better. This, like,
Phantom
Rogue
Menace
One
was
and
done in film, wasn't it? It was only
parts
Attack of the Clones
of,
that was done digitally
and Sith, yeah.
And
then
I think part of episode 2, Attack of the Clones, wasn't that?
There were elements of film in all three, if I
believe.
believe.
It was the first one where they brought in the digital camera for the first time.
Like,
that's right. Yes, you're
right.
They didn't have that yet for Phantom Menace.
That's right. I remember it. Yeah.
Whether they were able to use it for every single thing, I don't know. But certainly, and I know at the time, you've got to remember these digital cameras were extremely big, large, very big. And you couldn't quite do the same things with them at that point that you could with conventional cameras. That's different now. You could probably film in as good quality in a phone.
But I think that's really what's giving Andor kind of like its appeal, is just like the sequel trilogy. You mentioned it, Cam. It looked good. There's other issues.
Specifically, I always felt The Last Jedi looked better than the two Abrams movies, just in the style and the way it was shot and everything like that. That's just my opinion. Maybe other people think differently, but I always felt it kind of visually was the most standout-ish of the three sequel films for me.
Yeah. What are you thinking about the footage and Andor in general there, Shockey?
So it's a good thing that Tony Gilroy is attached to Andor, because he was responsible for the screenplay for Rogue One, so he knows the character. It's not like that was the one kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was a miss or something with Kenobi, with Deborah Chow, because I thought she did a great job, but it's kind of that continuity. If you know the characters really well, it's kind of Dave Filoni, with Star Wars, knowing the insides out of like Ahsoka, a character he brought in and has written. It's just so much for. So to have Tony Gilroy with this, knowing Diego Luna, working already together with him, it has the same, the same style. And then what was it? Tony Gilroy wrote all the Bourne movies, right? That's what I think. I'm pretty sure. Or
I don't know.
I
don't know.
Yeah,
I know he ended up directing some of Rogue One as well, didn't he? Because of the whole issue they had at the time of the reshoots. But
let's see here. As writer, Gilroy has Identity screenplay, Supremacy screenplay, Ultimatum story and screenplay, and Legacy screenplay and story credits for
Legacy.
Bourne. So, that's the one with Renner, right?
Yeah, that's the one with Renner where it just like completely went without Matt Damon and that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like any of the Bourne films. I never did. But
But the stories are. That's what I like about.
There's not an issue with them, with the writing in them. It's not. That's not the problem. I mean, at the end of the day, it's adapting a book, isn't it? Ultimately, these ones.
Tony was supposed to direct these episodes, but because of the COVID protocol situations, he wasn't able to get there in time. So that's when they went with a couple people that were local and directed. But he still has. You can still see.
The talent's pretty strong still. If you look at the CVs and the people that are involved in Andor, it's it's good.
And as good as the volume is, like it's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah,
it's still what they're able to do. What's the name of the studio in England?
Pinewood.
Pinewood. What they're still able to do on Pinewood is pretty legit, and they've created pretty much towns and cities, in the surrounding areas for it and stuff. So
it's kind of interesting that we're seeing the Andor having a different approach to the other Star Wars shows. It's maybe Tony Gilroy pushed for that. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see once they weigh it all up what looks better, how much it costs. Because I'm not an expert in this, but I'm guessing that the length of the Andor shoot, all the location shooting, must have cost more money. Than it cost for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, mostly what I've heard, Obi-Wan Kenobi, a lot of it is actors' fees, because McGregor got paid well for it, Christensen got paid well for it, that sort of stuff. So, it'll be interesting to see kind of what is the best model for them going forward. I always kind of think there must be some kind of sweet spot in the middle where some things are better done in the volume, but some things are better done in location, and it's going to be choosing between the two to make the best thing.
So with that, let me kind of transition us to an interesting, what I think might be an interesting topic before the ad break. The volume. Like, we know that there was some minor sets used in both seasons of Mandalorian as well as the volume, and we also know, or assume / know, there's been no like official here's the schedule, shooting schedule and every location and usage of the volume, but I definitely feel more use of it in Boba Fett, and definitely a hell of a lot more use in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Do you think maybe they're making with the volume that same kind of mistake Lucas made with all the digital tech and CGI? Because even though you have more film in episode 1, you still have a crap ton of relatively new CGI at the time, at least in the amount and aspirations he had for it. Do you think they're kind of overusing the volume, and Obi-Wan showed its kind of weaknesses? Do you think they're going to step back some or not? What do you think, Shockey? Sorry, Cam.
That's all right.
I think you're right in saying, like, you can definitely tell the difference in with Book of Boba Fett and with Kenobi, but I also think it was because of the time and situation with the pandemic. The volume was the best thing to use, because then you could follow all protocols easily. You didn't have to go to set location, like the issues that Tom Cruise was having filming the Mission Impossible, and because it's one thing for us to hang out and make a movie and say, okay, we know each other really well, but when you have unions, worker unions, and all that kind of stuff, and everybody has to be protected, everyone has to get tested, and all those things. I think the volume was just kind of the safe route to go. But I agree with you. I think that the lesson learned from this was, like, although this technology is great to have, and we can use it for space, use it for like space battles and stuff like that. If there's an opportunity to go into a live set, use it. I think the best example of this is when you saw, was it Mando season 2, when I forgot what planet they're on, but remember when they take Grogu to the Jedi or thing to communicate to, and Boba Fett shows up, and there's that massive battle between
Robert Rodriguez directed.
The one that Robert Rodriguez directed, but there's that massive battle between the stormtroopers. And remember, somebody, like, I was going for a jog and recorded on their phone, everybody thought it was just like random cosplayers playing playing with each other and stuff, and it ended up being that exact episode. But if you go back and watch that episode and see how beautiful it's shot and everything, that's what you got to use. Where the volume, it's a great tool to have, and it's amazing. And if you need to do a really unique location set, go for it. But
like if you're on a water planet, like when Mando goes to, I can't remember the name of the planet, but it's water and he's on the boats and that. You can't do that in a set, really. You can't get it to look like that. So you either do a small set with some water that the actors stand in, and then surround it by green screen, or you surround it by the volume. And I think that's the advantage of the volume. If you can use it to replace green screen, it should always be the volume. But if you can say, well, actually, we've got the environment here that we can just film this in a location, that should always, where possible, be the option. But it's going to be weighing up how much CGI is going to be required for each thing.
And not only that, but I think the scale, because as we could see in Obi-Wan Kenobi, the trying to put too much into the volume to film really causes some claustrophobia, can cause some movement issues. And I know I'm a bit in the minority to get completely ripped out of a project for that, but it is noticeable. And I was even mentioning this to my dad the other day. When you have a low budget film, something that's not a tentpole or series for that matter, a lot of like technical things become more forgivable than like AAA projects. Is something that you expect a certain level, continuity errors between takes and things like that they're more annoying if it happens in a Star Wars or Marvel, or we'll use a famous coffee cup from Game of Thrones. It's more frustrating for something like that than it is, a Netflix lock and key, or
remember the jeans guy at the end of Mando season 2?
Yep, exactly. And I know mistakes happen, and that's fine, but my biggest fear is, like you brought up, Cam, and you can kind of carry on from this if you want, but a lot of Kenobi budget went into the talent, and it's because you could save a lot of money using the volume for filming. Disney likes money. Do you have any fears of them overusing it in the future, even though they might not have to, like Shaki had pointed out?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be a learning curve, and I think it's going to depend on each project and what's best for that project. I think if a project's primary thing is, well, we're not sure about this, we need to keep the costs down, then why not use the volume? But I think where I forgave it a little bit more in Book of Boba Fett. Yeah, there's things that we'd still say is this was an issue, that was an issue. A lot of that was directing choices as well, though. I didn't love, as much as I loved what Robert Rodriguez did in Mando season 2, didn't like so much his stuff on Book of Boba Fett, though. It just didn't feel right to me. Some of that was design issues as well. We've talked about that when we reviewed the shows. I think with Obi-Wan Kenobi, the problem is it was a bit more tentpole. It was a bit more, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's fucking, to quote Ewan McGinn, but that's fucking Obi-Wan Kenobi. And because of that, I don't think cutting costs should have been a major concern, because it's not so much box office, it's about having a product on there that you want everybody to talk about how great it was, and that, I want to watch that. People will subscribe to watch it, even if it's not right there and then. It's not necessarily about the right there and now with something like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And my biggest, takeaway, and we talked about this when we reviewed the episodes in Obi-Wan Kenobi, is that we all had slightly different opinions about where it landed, but I think we all kind of thought it could have been better than what it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes you just wonder whether if they'd put that bit more money in, took a bit more time to get it out there, rather than kind of saying we need this out for May 2022, which at the end of the day, you've got probably creative people going, just give us as much time as you need, and then business people going, no, we've got subscribers and we've got shareholders, right, and we need this product out. And that's always going to be the battle. There's a lot of filmmakers that would say they're never finished until it's literally ripped out their hands and said, time's up, you're done,
Right.
Yeah.
And with Kenobi, it was 2 rewrites. And so I think they finally, once they got to the third, they finally just said, we're sticking with what we got to do. But
where it fell down was it needed people to something might have looked okay in paper, but then when they shot it, you realise there's a few issues, and that's where they needed to make changes in the fly. And I don't think they did that well in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Example, end episode 3 doesn't work on film. All of us said right away, unless they explain this later on, it's not going to work. The whole tunnel thing with can't remember her name, Tala was it, and Reva and all that. The in script that probably seemed fine, but same episode, but once you look at it all, it didn't work. The escape from the hangar with the snow speeders, not in snow, coming in. Yeah. Maybe it was a great idea on paper, but the way it actually worked in practice wasn't that great. And it's little things like that you need to kind of almost adjust in the fly. And maybe even that's why reshoots would be set up. Whether I don't know how much reshoots they had planned for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'd be surprised if they didn't plan any reshoots for it.
Oh, there was
reshoots, but these are the kind of things I would expect to have been picked up on the reshoot stage and the editing stage, and they weren't. I don't know if we can necessarily place the blame at the volume, but we all kind of felt that there was sometimes a claustrophobic scene to certain, or a feeling to certain scenes that didn't need to be there.
To kind of go on your point, from what I know about Kenobi and stuff, that the story was darker. From what I was told in the first of this script version of it and stuff. And a lot of it got edited out to, I think, because it's Disney Plus and to appease more fans. But to go into your argument, Kyle, if you look at, and this kind of segues into the next story, if you look at Skeleton Crew, it's going to be one of the biggest budget Disney Plus shows in not just in Star Wars, but all of Disney Plus original. So I think that Disney Lucasfilm is willing to spend the money. I think it's just for what are you going to get out of it in type deal. And so for a limited series, I think that like Kenobi, we get what we get.
That poses a question: that did Kenobi come at the wrong time? Just when lockdown was there.
I think it was more.
Would Kenobi have been a better product if they had waited a year and then did it?
Who knows?
With the same story, maybe.
I think it was just more of a This is something like, I know that Kathleen Kennedy, Ewan McGregor, we all know like they've been trying to get this done for a while. First starting out as a movie and then stuff. So I think it was just more like, okay, this is as good in their eyes. This is as good as it's going to get. Let's roll with it. Pandemic hits. They tried their to film it within the working conditions they have. So.
But then again, as somebody said on Slack recently, our Slack channel, it's not Slack, Discord, sorry, talking rubbish, which, by the way, feel free to join our Discord and chat with us.
Down below.
Sometime. Yeah, link down below. But I think someone said on there, and this is true, I thought about it as well at the time, how long do we keep using the pandemic as an excuse for poor products? Or
that time is coming up.
And I think we are getting
super fast.
into that now.
Yeah, I think that's kind of over. I give Kenobi that. Book of Boba Fett. I understand it was during
Boba
the pandemic.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, but anything now moving forward, I think Top Gun now kind of proved everything wrong.
WandaVision as well. Like how if we even go into some of the Marvel side of things, there was a lot of them just came into that period where you do just forgive them a little bit about some stuff. Yeah.
I think we're like Kyle said, we're past that point now.
Yeah.
Anything that comes out now, it's fair game.
Yep. And we are. What's up?
I was just saying, like the new shows that are coming out, new projects, new movies. You can't use that anymore.
Can't use that excuse anymore. Just like we can't use the excuse of talking to prevent this awful segue to our sponsors over at Grow Generation. Grow Generation, where the pros go to grow. Grow Generation offers the best deals and discounts on the best grow products on the market. Grow Generation serves customers across the nation and carries a wide inventory of renowned cultivation brands. Go to www.growgeneration.com, where the pros go to grow. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring the episode as usual. Their link is down in the description box below, or if you're at lrmonline.com watching this, it's on the page and like there in the write-up. So the other thing to kind of chit chat about that I have on the agenda is a rumor of Kate Herron or Herron. I'm not sure if I put a little too much emphasis there at the end.
Never
of
heard it
her
spoken
name.
out loud.
Exactly.
So
Loki. She helped out with Loki season 1. Season 2 filming right now for that. Rumored for directing the Acolyte. Cam, you wrote this one up, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. Take us through.
Yeah, it was me. This one. With this one, there doesn't seem to be any clear, like, this is definitely happening. This came from making Star Wars, right? Even they themselves said, look, we're not saying this is an exclusive, we've heard this information. This is just a rumour that they've heard as well. And that could mean that she was a target, but there's nothing signed and delivered yet. What we do know about Acolyte is that there was a bit of a delay to the initial kind of schedule that was up, and it's kind of later in this year now that it's going to film. And it's filming in a new studio in England, actually not in Pinewood. It's a new kind of studio
Oakwood.
That's been set up.
I'm joking.
I'm
joking.
I can't remember the name.
Maple.
Let's see if I can.
Maplewood.
That'll be it. Give me a second to actually look at this story and I'll tell you the name. In case anyone that listens is really curious and says, oh, that's the studio I work at, and I'm pissed off now. Actually, I don't have that information there, so I don't know.
That's
Give me a
all right.
second. But yeah, basically, this is what MSW said. 2 different sources, one UK-based and one in SoCal, mentioned that Kate Herron is supposedly involved, or approached at least. Herron, executive producer, directed Marvel's Loki, critical acclaim. On paper, she sounds like a good fit to direct showrunner Leslie Headland's Star Wars series. They also then went into talk about because Kate's LBQT and so is Leslie Headland, and I thought, well, I kind of don't feel that's relevant in any way whatsoever. I think what's far more relevant is that she did a really good job with Loki. And that's why she kind of might be a target for this show. We do know 100% that she is not back for Loki season 2. That was never on the cards. She was quite early in saying that she wouldn't be back for season 2 because we always knew Loki was getting a season 2. Maybe that's because this was in the back burner or some way. There was talks kind of starting, I don't know. They did say, I think the rumour is a lot going for it personally, but until I know for a fact Herron is directing 1 or more episodes, and it was more than just being approached, they're treating it as a rumour with legs for now, and that's all we can kind of do as well for this moment in time. But saying that, would she be a bad choice? No, I think she'd be a good choice for it, considering, Loki was my 100% favourite Marvel show that they've done on Disney Plus so far. Really loved Loki. So, yeah, I'm keen because The Acolyte's definitely one of the most exciting projects on the horizon. Whether it ends up being good or not, who knows, but it's intriguing and it's exciting, So, we'll see what happens, I guess.
What do you think, Shockey? You think Herron would make a good director for what you know about this, or what we all know about this project at that?
I mean, yeah, based on her work, yeah. I mean, I loved I loved Loki, the entire series of it. I think it's the best Marvel Disney Plus series so far. So yeah, like bring it over to Star Wars, and like we don't know exactly what. We kind of have an idea what the Acolyte, time frame wise, but besides that, it's what's weird about the Acolyte. Out of all projects, it's the one that's had the least controversy to it, or like anything,
I don't know. They're the ones with a writer that had never seen Star Wars before she got the job, so that's controversial to me. That's controversial. I know. I'm being a bit what's the word I'm looking for? Melodramatic about it. But
the only drama that the Acolyte has is that they announced that it would be a female lead early on, and there's some people just rolled their eyes at that.
I don't care about that. Whatever.
I mean,
what I'm saying is like,
but some people that are out there, we know, there's a bit of a toxic element to Star Wars fan base.
If you go to the original 3, so Patty Jenkins with Rogue Squadron is on delay. Taika Waititi, until we know exactly what is going on there, but he just got done with Love and Thunder, and he's playing coy, saying I don't even know what the project's going to be or anything like that. But that one is still a ways out. But this one is the one that's kind of kept under the radar, and it's just kind of keeps moving along, just chugging along, and adding a writer here, director here, So
the thing about this is like kind of Taika's, we don't know anything about Taika's, so only dramas of when's it coming, when can we expect this. More with the Acolyte, we know a little bit more about it, but it's in an era completely different from where the rest of the stories go.
But it's amazing how steady it's been.
Yeah. Maybe it's just the teams in that league. It's not started filming yet, so I mean, that's one thing. So there'll be far more stories come out about the Acolyte once it kicks off. That always is the case, because you're hiring in people that have got no involvement with it at this moment in time. While it's in the writer's room where they've been kind of hammering out the story, it's maybe easier to keep a lid on what's going on with it at that point, potentially.
It's kind of funny how many Marvel people have ended up working over at Star Wars now. From Favreau, who kicked off the Marvel's cinematic universe being a core element of Star Wars now. to
Feige.
Peyton Reed, right?
Peyton Reed.
That's the
Yeah.
Ant-Man franchise, Ant-Man and the Wasp franchise. I love those movies. Totally underrated in the MCU. To Feige coming over to produce it. It almost feels like a
He's
return.
bringing Michael Walden with him, who
Yep.
wrote Loki and
Yep.
wrote Doctor Strange.
And we just mentioned Kate Herron and
Maybe.
others, potentially, yeah, but plenty of others. It reminds me of the the like 1940s and 50s era of film, where like the studio system, and man, I don't know how to feel about it. At the one point, it kind of gets tantalizing, because then you're like, well, what if James Gunn does a Star Wars movie, or what if the Russos could do an episode of,
I would love if the Russos
of a show,
I think
The
the Russos
Russos-
can do something Star Wars eventually. I think they will, because they've said what huge Star Wars fans they are.
Right.
And, they're up there in my book because they love The Empire Strikes Back more than any other film as well, and that kind of works for me as well. So I'd love to see the Russos get a shot at Star Wars.
I'm my brain is tantalized by those thoughts as well, but then I also start to remember how little creative differences there was in the old movies because of the studio system, and because it was the same people picked for projects again and again and again, and it's not until you get into the 70s and the 80s with the advent of less expensive filmmaking got relatively cheap. Horror genres really kicked
action
off,
movie
and
stars.
that action movies were really cheap
If
to
you
do.
go back to the 40s and 50s, though, Kel, you have to remember that they were producing far more than they produce now.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
a conveyor belt,
Yes.
so there wasn't as many original ideas. It was
We're producing a
sometimes it was
lot of Star
five.
Wars
I
that we
know
never
they are
used
now,
to.
and then maybe that's why there's that kind of system. But it was very much, the stars were their property.
Yeah.
So it was about, putting people into vehicles to get them out there. That was a different situation for what we find ourselves in.
No, that's an interesting thought there, Shocky. Actors back in the day really pulled a lot of weight, and today it's the filmmaker. It's that director or show those names of Favreau, Feige. It's we're not seeing a bunch of crossover. Brie Larson, as much as she claims to be a Star Wars fan, isn't in Star Wars as and we're not, we don't have a Chris Evans over that. We get the occasional like Taika Waititi cameo or voice actor type thing, but all of the cross pollination is from behind the camera.
Right, correct.
What do you think about that kind of change in who a studio views as profitable, or
Yeah, well, so I mean, the most profitable being Tom Cruise. I mean, but he calls his own shots. He's at that power now that he's not just signing on to like a film from a random studio. It's his, his production company. He gets final say on all cuts on everything. So I mean, that's the ultimate. I would say the only actor out there right now that, like, when you cast him, it kind of moves the needle a little bit, is The Rock. Whenever you cast The Rock in a movie, it pushes the needle and gets people to go see it. But the real big test with The Rock will be the Black Adam.
I don't
really
get it. I don't have anything against The Rock, but
No.
seeing him in a movie does not make me want to go and see
Right,
it. Because
it's not like-
very few movies I've seen with The Rock.
Correct.
Good.
Correct. And it's not like back in the 80s and 90s where you could either get Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van
Norris.
Damme, Chuck Norris.
The
You get
action
those guys.
era.
Hulk
didn't matter
Hogan.
who was behind it.
Let's not leave out Suburban Commando and Mr. Nanny.
No
Was
Holds
that
Barred
it?
Yep.
was another one of his.
But yeah, it didn't matter who was behind the camera on those. It was all about who was in front of the, in front of the lens. And then at the same time too, you did have, James Cameron, Spielberg. They kind of, came through too as
Oh
well.
yeah, it was their era, and I think that's where that's come from.
It was kind of a blend.
Because they kept making more money than everybody else. That's the thing. The Camerons and the Spielbergs, the studios are going, how do these guys keep making more money than
Exactly.
Because they're making better movies than you.
On less expensive, getting into the nitty gritty of what makes special effects and really getting into what it takes to make a film. I agree. That's why 70s and 80s are just standout film after standout film.
I mean, there's a lot of crap released in the 70s and 80s. I was one of those video store cruisers in that point. So, I was picking up everything that looked good in the front cover. Yeah. And a lot of it was shit. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, there's always going to be shit out there.
It just went in the bin. But the good things just elevated, and there was so many different things.
But I do think that Hollywood is going that route, though, that it's more about who's behind the camera now. I mean, look at the Disney Plus Day. When they made the announcement for Star Wars, it was not about who was casted. The biggest news was, hey, we're bringing Kenobi back and Hayden Christensen is coming back as Darth Vader. That was the big news. But the rest of the news was we've got Taika Waititi doing a Star Wars project. We have Patty Jenkins. They did a whole trailer for Patty Jenkins saying she's doing Rogue Squadron. Then Leslie Headland, doing the Acolyte. So you see that there. You saw that with Marvel. Marvel got smart. It was like end of phase 1, beginning of phase 2. There was kind of this weird scenario where it was like they weren't really tagging or looking for directors. It was trying to remember, it was all about who's going to be that next big actor that they're going to cast. And it was for a short time there that there was kind of a slump with the things. But then once they got the Russo brothers to come in with Civil War and stuff, then that kind of sparked it again. Okay, we had Favreau to start off, the Russo brothers with Civil War. It kind of, then it was like, okay, Feige kind of got
Russo's came in with Winter Soldier, but
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Winter Soldier, you're right. With Winter Soldier, that's what I meant to say. And then it was, okay, we don't have to get that superstar A-lister to be in the film. We can cast these, these no-namers or these mid-level actors come in and do that. And I think that's what, like Jude Law being in Skeleton Crew, don't get me wrong, I think Jude Law is a hell of an actor, but it's not like, I'm not watching Skeleton Crew because of
Jude
Law.
It's not a Jude Law vehicle, Jude Law starring in a Jude Law production,
Right.
Whereas if they'd said Tom Cruise is starring in Skeleton Crew, it would have been a much bigger deal. And it would all have been about Cruise,
Yeah.
So.
And you look at Star Wars. I mean, as much as I love, the cast of the original, the original trilogy, what really made Star Wars? It was the idea that Lucas came up with, and then the directors that came, from Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So you can,
and you make new stars. That's the thing. There's the actors are 10 a penny. Okay, they might not.
In today's internet,
as great as each other, but there's so many people out there trying to get into the acting business that you can find absolute gems out there that are perfect for your character that people don't necessarily know that well. And you look at a lot of let's look at the Rings of Power, right? For example, I know we're going off on a kind of fantasy kind of slant here, or House of the Dragon. How many of those people that are starring in these are household names? Very few, right? Because actually, when you're signing up to something as long term as that, you're getting these people in and saying, right, here's a 5-year contract. This is how much we're going to pay you. If they wanted Tom Cruise, and I know it's unrealistic, but let's say you wanted Tom Cruise to play a part in 5 seasons of The Rings of Power, how much would that cost you? A ridiculous amount of money. They just can't afford to do that. And if they only sign people up to short-term contracts, then they become superstars, go to renegotiate the contract again and go, I want $50 million.
All right.
And then
look at David Harbour.
Thanks, we'll recast the role.
Yeah, look at David Harbour with Stranger Things. Like he admitted before Stranger Things came along, he almost quit acting because he was just basically being cast in these small little roles and stuff, and it wasn't anything great for him, and he wasn't making.
Winona Ryder wasn't getting much work before Stranger Things either, by the way, and she's the biggest probably name in that show
since the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with David Harbour being cast as Hopper, boom, now he's a superstar. He's going to San Diego Comic-Con and people are, chasing him down for pictures.
He's in the MCU. He's
He's
Red
right.
Guardian,
Yeah. Name before we wrap it up, because I'd written this down and I was kind of curious. We mentioned how a bunch of actors haven't made a role over in Star Wars. Cam, who's a Marvel actor you would like to see in a Star Wars role?
It's 100% Chris Evans.
And what do you want to see him play?
Don't care. I mean,
Don't care.
a role that doesn't exist at the moment. I'd love to see him.
I didn't mean a character, but a starfighter pilot,
I'd love
a Jedi or
Well,
something like that.
I'd like to see him be a villain. I'd like to
villain?
see, because he's never really, he's done villains. He's absolutely done
Knives
villains.
Out,
Knives
for
Out.
example.
What's the new one?
Grey Man.
Grey Man. He's a villain in that.
Yeah.
So he's done it. But I think in something as big as that, it's the opposite of being Captain America in the MCU. That's who I would want as my next Darth Vader, almost for a new story in Star Wars. I think he's at that age now where he's not some young heartthrob kind of action star, but he's a quality actor, and he's also just got star potential. People love him, I think that's the one I would choose. I'd love to see Evans as a main villain across, many movies.
What about you, Shockey?
Michael B. Jordan. I think he would be an excellent villain. I think his portrayal of Killmonger, probably besides Thanos, I get it, but probably the best villain in the MCU in my opinion.
My problem with Michael B. Jordan is
3.
that I can't get out of my head that film he was in that I had to watch for Breaking Geek without remorse.
Oh,
Such a bad film. But to be fair, it wasn't his fault. The acting wasn't the issue. It was the story, and everything else.
You sound like Danny whenever they talk about Lost City. I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna say Elizabeth Olsen, and I would like to have seen her play. Specifically, I would have liked to seen her play Mara Jade.
That would be a good casting.
Yeah, not necessarily involving Luke or anything, but an Emperor's Hand type story.
Yeah.
Liz Olsen as Mara Jade. So yeah, that's gonna do it for us, folks. We've got a lot of great things going on over at lrmonline.com. So if you have sorry, that is my phone going off. If you have not been over to the website, go ahead, head over. You can find celebrity interviews, reviews for everything from movies, TV, occasionally games, comic stuff. All of the podcast links are there as well. Usually have the LRM YouTube channel up there if the Genreverse YouTube channel isn't here. So we've got things from San Diego Comic-Con this week on the channel. So subscribe over there as well. After you subscribe to, the Genreverse YouTube channel, of course. Lots of great shows like the Daily Cup of Genre, Anime Versal Reviews, Breaking Geek Radio, the podcast, Marvel Multiverse Mayhem, and of course the Cantina, as well as the Genre Shot trailer reactions. All of the audio. All of the podcasts, not the trailer reactions, because what would an audio only reaction be like? Boring. But all of the shows generally do go up wherever you get your podcast from: Google, Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Cam, anything else you want to put out?
Apart from apologises if you can hear my cat crying. He's all. Kitty. I threw a kind of soft cloth at him there to try and get him away, but he's like, yeah. Good luck with that. So sorry if you can hear some really tragic meowing. Unfortunately, he's got something wrong with him where he thinks he's hungry all the time.
Oh, I thought you were
being serious. So he cries for food. I need to get him to the vet. But anyway, that's besides the point. So apart from that, no. Other than if you are interested in getting involved in the LRM team at all, then please let us know. For example, if you'd be interested writing about the things that you really, enjoy, the geek stuff like we do, talking about it, giving your opinions, writing about news stories, maybe about a subject that we don't cover as often as you think we should. Whatever that be, please reach out to us. Our details are all on here if you're watching on YouTube. Kyle said them at the start of the video if you don't know them, but just for mine's at LRM_Cam. Please reach out if you're interested in that at all. I'll probably forward your details on to Shocky anyway because he deals with that sort of stuff. But please reach out to us because we are looking to grow the team and grow the site and the podcast network as well.
Chucky, anything else?
Enjoy the site and let us know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Maybe give us some feedback on how we can make it better.
Sounds good, guys. We'll see you next week. May the force be with you.